Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Rei-Lin, and I'm back with some more Armored Warfare. At last, finally, I was able to finally get the tank that I paid for just about there around Christmas time, believe it or not. I've actually had this tank for about a week and a half or so. They finally got around to giving it to me. They had some problems, of course, just like I ran into, where if you bought a certain package deal off of the shop, it would give you the wrong tank. In my case, it was giving me the T-72B3 instead of the Type 96 Bravo. So, now that I have this tank and have, played around with it a little bit, I'm ready to kind of just do the usual premium tank review. This is a Tier 8 main battle tank, Chinese, the Type 96 Bravo. And I have to say, it's really not all of that in a bag of chips or anything else. It's not that great of a tank. The Chinese main battle tanks are not one of my favorite main battle tank types. They're generally inferior in most directions that I've seen than the Russian tanks that they're generally based off of. And this one, of course, is no exception. And I'll jump straight in and do the comparison like always. I got 10, believe it or not, 10 other Tier 8s, most of them premium tanks, that I can compare this tank to, but I'll get to that after we kind of go over what this tank has to offer right out of the shop. So 630 damage, 650 millimeters of penetration. Decent. It's right around the same as most of the other Tier 8 main battle tanks. There's nothing great about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's just kind of in the middle. Damage per minute, 4,973. Again, it's not Russian levels. They're usually quite a bit above 5,000. But again, it's sort of that in between, not quite great, not quite terrible. The reload time, 7.6 seconds. Now, I generally feel that if it's a main battle tank and it has a reload time of under 8.5 to 9 seconds, it's generally pretty good. 7.6 is okay. Again, it's sort of in the middle. It's not super fast, but it's not overly long either. Hit points, 2,700, is a little bit on the low side for a main battle tank. Now, granted, most tanks of this type that are the kind of small zippy tanks, they don't have a ton of armor, they don't have a ton of ERA, mostly based on the Russian tanks and their designs. Don't have a lot of health in general, but this, I think, is a little bit below average. Most of the other tanks that I'm going to show you here in a minute generally have 2,900 plus health. There are a couple that don't, but, we'll get to those in a minute. So how does it fare armor-wise? Well, 400 millimeters of armor in the front hull, 132 on the side, 49 at the rear. So, again, very much like a Russian tank. Crappy hull armor, except a little bit in the front is decent. And then, of course, we're going to go down to what the usual saving grace of tanks that have crappy hull armor is: good turret armor. 570 millimeters in the front of the turret, 74 on the side, 47 at the rear. So the turret is only strong very much point blank from the front. The hull is only okay from the front. It is a composite, so those numbers can go up or down a little bit better than if it was just made out of one thing like steel. But again, those are not that great armor values. They're good, but they're definitely not going to hold up to Tier 9 or Tier 10 missiles. Going on the mobility, and this is pretty much the biggest strength of the tank, is the mobility. 75 kilometers an hour is its max speed. It will get there. You can get there a little bit quicker, going obviously down a slight slope, but it does have some crazy good engine power. Reading the info about the tank, it has a 1,200 horsepower engine, and so considering the vehicle isn't that heavy, that's pretty damn good, and it does have the top speed to prove it. 3.31 seconds 0 to 32 kilometers is, again, pretty damn quick. That's sort of light tank territory, and considering this is a main battle tank, that's really good. 41,500 kilograms for the vehicle mass. Again, it's probably one of the lightest main battle tanks at Tier 8. 45.48 degrees a second hull traverse is average. It's not super great. Anything over 50 would be like really, really good. You can pump that up, obviously, with some crew training and commander skills and retrofits and things like that, but it's not horrible. Camouflage is actually not bad. It's got 19% across the board. That's okay for a main battle tank, but obviously this isn't really a stealthy tank. The view range is a little on the low side at 435 meters. Most tanks at tier 8 have a little bit more than that. Not a whole lot more, maybe 440, 450 meters. But again, your main tactic here with the main battle tank is not to be spotting for your team, and if you are, you're probably getting in trouble. Cannon depression really sucks. Of course, it's based on a Russian design, so of course it also has shitty gun depression. Only 6 degrees in the front and 0 gun depression over the rear. And when I zoom out of the stats, you'll see why. So that's not that great. Now, the accuracy's not bad. 0.108 maximum deviation is in the top 3 for being the best at tier 8. So good thing it has that at least. 1.16 second aim time is really good. That's, you don't have to stick your head out very long to get locked out on a target. That's for sure. So that's good. And the turret traverse, 49.14 degrees a second, is really good. Like I said, anywhere between 49 and up, you're getting to the point now that you don't really need crew training or retrofits to increase the turret traverse, because that's pretty damn quick. So on paper, the tank is sort of average, in my opinion. And you can see why it doesn't have any gun depression over the rear. It's just a flat deck. There's nowhere for the gun to go. There's no sloping. There's no nothing right there. And you can see, of course, that the front of the hull does have, looks like ERE plating, so it can take a couple hits in the side and in the front with missiles. The turret really doesn't have a whole lot, but it does have a couple of funky angles. But most of the turret is pretty flat in the front. Yeah, it's okay armored. Yeah, it has some angling, but it's not really going to be enough to save you. Of course, the lower front plate's got this funky angle, but it's wide, and in general, you would probably have to angle this perfectly to not have something go through you. The upper hull, I mean, it's sloped a little bit funky, but you just can't rely. And I mean, it's pretty much just right here is 400 or so millimeters in the front, and of course, the front of the turret is the only thing. And this is probably going to be considered the side. So you see, you don't have very much armor. I mean, you can force them to hit this, and you'll probably bounce and you'll do all right. But I would not count on this tank, holding up to much punishment if you're fighting tanks that are tier 9 or 10. Now, you're fighting 6s, 7s, and 8s. This tank holds up much, much better. You're going to be stuck with the paint job that's on it. It almost looks like there's very little of a paint job left on it, but this is what you get. You cannot change it. As you can see, I cannot click to change any of the camouflage. So what you see is what you get. It does come with a level 5 maxed out crew, which is pretty nice. But other than that, this is what you got. So, looking at the vehicle stats by itself really doesn't tell you the whole story. So let's go ahead and throw the vehicle comparison up right here, right now, with the Type all the way over here on the left. And we'll just kind of more or less go right across the board here, and you can see anything that's in red, the Type is winning. If it's white, it's either the same or worse. So going across, I got the Challenger 1 Falcon, I got the M1A1 AIM, the T-72B3, the Vickers and Mark 7. I don't own the M1A2 Abrams, so unfortunately this is a stock tank, but I do own the Leopard 2A5 and the T-96A. So these tanks are not really going to be maxed out. I believe the Leopard is, and the 90A, it should be, because I pretty much got it for free because I already owned the tank when they added it. But even if they're not, you can see if you go across the board, things aren't really looking that hot for the Type. So it does do very good damage. The T-72 does more damage, and it has more pen. A couple of tanks have way more pen. And remember, these are all tier 8, so you can see that it's got okay pen, but like I said, it's more or less right in the middle. It's not nearly as good. I mean, it matches the Abrams, but this is a stock Abrams, and most likely this is going to go up. So most likely, outside of the AIM, it's probably going to have the lowest millimeter of penetration of the tier 8s. The damage is okay, like I said, but otherwise, damage per minute, as you can see, it doesn't do bad. I mean, The T-72 definitely beats it. The T-90, of course, being Russian, beats it. And all the rest are just meh, you know. So I'll give it props. It does do okay damage per minute. This is kind of funky, but as you can see, like I said, the jump with the Russian tanks is quite significant. Reload time, it's not bad. Again, it's kind of in the middle. The Challenger beats it. The AIM beats it. The T-72 really beats it. But it does beat the Vickers, the Leopard, the Abrams, and, you know, of course, the T-90 does beat it. But, again, it's right sort of in the middle. And then here's where I said it got the worst part of the stick, the hit points. It basically has the lowest health of any Tier 8 main battle tank. I mean, just look at that. It's kind of sad. The closest that comes is the 2900 with the T-72 and the T-90. The hull doesn't fare a whole lot better. Pretty much everything except for the T-72 and the T-90 have better hulls all across the board. Even though most of these are all the same, being composite, it still doesn't fare that well. The turret does a little bit better, but not really. When you look, it really only beats the Falcon for the turret. And everything else has at least 700 millimeters or close to 700. I mean, 650 is still almost 100 millimeters more even on the T-90A turret. And so you can see it only beats one other real Tier 8. So unfortunately, the armor is not the strength of this tank. But if we move to the mobility, just like I mentioned, it's the fastest tank at Tier 8, especially for premium tanks. I mean, it trounces everything. I mean, the Vickers can't even keep up. It's still a little bit slower. 0 to 32, it beats everything. So that's kind of nice. So it's very high top speed, very fast acceleration. And, of course, it is the lightest of all of the other Tier 8s, which makes it kind of accelerate that fast and get going down the road. And it does have a faster hull traverse here than all the other Tier 8s. So mobility is where it shines, definitely. Camo, again, look at that. It actually has the best camouflage, and it ties the T-90A, and it ties the T-72B3 for best camo. So if you wanted to make this thing a little bit harder to see, you probably could, and it would do okay. Again, it was the view range. It was sort of on the lower end or basically in the middle if you wanted to go that route. It really doesn't beat a whole lot. It's pretty much on the same par or worse than the others. Gun depression across the board. Only the T-90A has slightly worse gun depression, but really only in the front. It still has the advantage of having 1 degree over the rear, but everything else kicks its ass. Even the T-72, despite only having 5, it has 2 over the rear. So, again, it's just okay. The maximum deviation, again, average in the middle. It's a little bit better than some tanks and pretty much on par with others. The aim time, though, is the best of all of them, 1.16. And the turret traverse is the best of all of them at 49.14. So across the board, only a couple things are really much better on the Type 96 Bravo, unfortunately. So that, in a nutshell, is the Type. You can see that really the only thing it has going for it is some camo and speed. Now, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. It has enough armor to hold up to some punishment, but not from higher tiers. I mean, I literally just played a couple of games, and there was Tier 9s and 10s, and they punch holes straight through the strongest part of my turret, which, of course, is the front. And getting this thing hauled down with only 6 degrees of gun depression is a pain in it's just a pain in the ass. You're just not going to be able to make this thing be as effective as it could be if it had 7, 8 degrees of gun depression. I mean, this, unfortunately, is just not that great of a tank. And considering it's a Tier 8 premium and it costs you $45, I expected a little bit more out of this tank. I mean, it's pretty much inferior in almost every way to the T-72B3, which is essentially a T-90 Alpha. So this tank can hold up to much more punishing damage from missiles, Tier 9s, Tier 10s, than the Type 96 Bravo can. And unfortunately, that just seems to be the trend with a lot of the Chinese main battle tanks that I've played. They're just... mobility is not really an issue in armor warfare. Even the Challenger 1 Falcon, the Challenger 2, the Challenger, they get moving eventually well enough to get around the map, especially in PvE. So the advantage of the having this top speed without having really anything else to go with it really kind of sucks. I don't mind having mobile tanks, I really don't, but if I really gotta have a mobile tank, I'll pick a light tank that's meant to be mobile, it's meant not to have armor. Generally they have faster firing guns that do more damage or have more pin, or something, you know, along the lines of more camouflage and definitely more gun depression. You know, they're just more viable in more spots than something like this. So as far as that goes, I definitely wouldn't pay to buy this tank again if I knew that it was going to not be as good as I was hoping. I thought, oh, cool, brand new tank, sounds cool, Chinese premium, tier 8, another tier 8 main battle tank, premium tank, great. Now, obviously, I'm always going to buy these tanks whether they suck or not, but definitely, yeah, unless they would drop this down to like a $25 to $28 tank, and you really, really, really got to have a Chinese main battle tank, a premium one at that, yeah, I would definitely pass. Well, with that being said, let's go over, you know, kind of what I'm doing with the commanders. I picked up one of the package deals. I believe it was the one for the Merkava 2D, and that package deal came with the new commander, Alexander Cortez. Now, his special ability is this right here, fixed position. You have a 30% chance to roll max damage on every shot that you take. And if you take the rest of these, you're basically eventually going to hit a 100% chance to always roll max damage on your gun. Now, the rest of the stuff that he has isn't necessarily that great, but the fact is, if you're going to take a tank, the main function is to do a lot of damage. It's a fast firing, fast reloading, decent, penetration and high damage, especially the Russian tanks. If you don't want any variation in your shell damage and you just always want to punch holes through things, I think Cortez is a pretty damn good commander. At the very least, I'm going to level him up because I need a couple of commanders that are leveled up anyway. So if you didn't pick up Cortez, use whichever commander you got the most skill points in or like the most with their skills. There are a couple of commanders that I prefer to use, but for him, being able to hit for max damage is actually really, really kind of fun. And of course, we got the tier 5 people here, my crew. Off-road driving, acceleration. I always take off-road driving. There's really no reason not to in almost any tank because it just increases your acceleration on off-road terrain by 20%. And I improve the hull traverse, especially on main battle tanks. They generally don't have very good hull traverse, so I almost always go ahead and take the spin to win. It's clicky, do the twist. Turret traverse speed improved by 5%, and aim speed improved by 10%. Now you could, instead of upping the turret traverse, which is already fairly quick, you could probably take sharpshooter. That'll give you improved overall accuracy, but this tank has decent accuracy as it is, so you're pretty much going to be able to hit any shot. But yeah, that would be the only variation I'd really take if I wanted to switch things out. Now this tank, actually for a premium, is kind of weird that it actually comes with a whole shit ton of different ammunition. You got heat, you got missiles, you got armor piercing, and you got HE. I didn't take any HE. I mean, you can only hold 42 shells, and that also includes the missiles that go with it. And I really don't like using missiles. They have long reloads, and they don't generally do a whole hell of a lot more damage. I mean, you see it's got the same pin as my armor piercing, so it's like, well, and it does less damage. So if you're looking to do module damage and stuff like that, obviously, you can kind of mix and match what you want here. I'm just going ahead and, as always, sticking mostly with armor piercing. It does me pretty good, and I haven't really had any trouble getting through with 650 millimeters of pin. Even though it's on the low side, it's still more than enough to get through weak points, the sides and rears of pretty much any tank in the game. Of course, we got the consumables. As usual, I'm taking the surplus parts crate because I want to be able to repair my tank up to 3 times with the missile spam. It's almost a freaking requirement. And I take the first aid cabinet to increase my crew resilience by 15%, and I can use it 3 times to heal anybody that gets knocked out, and it heals everybody at once. I take the energy drink because I'm wanting to max out my crew skills every single time that I'm driving these tanks, and I want them to be in tip-top shape, so I throw this in. You could go with the fire extinguisher or engine oil or whatever else you think you might need if you think you need it, just to save a little money. But the one thing I will stress every time now for all of my reviews until they change it is to always bring the field rebuild kit. Screw off high tier field maintenance. You don't need this one. Bring this one. The increase in cost, it's more than pays for itself. When you're alive, it restores 100% of your health and gives you 100% of your ammo back. When you die, you can use this to revive at the nearest revive point. You don't get 100% health. I do wish they would just patch in that you get 60% health and 100% ammo. This is invaluable. If you want to earn lots of credits and you want to earn lots of reputation, you need to do damage, especially in PvE. The longer you're in the match, the more damage you do, the more you earn. So if you do something stupid, if something happens with the missile spam, it's 100% understandable that you get caught out, eat 3 missiles, and die instantly. This will let you do it over, give you another chance to not do that. So in PvE, please, everybody, bring this. Even if you're low on money, believe me, at the end of every match, you're going to earn more than enough to cover the cost of your ammo, repairing your tank, and replacing this. Now, retrofits. Retrofits are the fun part. Now, with this tank, I'm always going to take improved reload speed. There is zero reason that this should not be on every one of your tanks. Firing faster is more damage. It's more damage per minute. It's just, there you go. That's what you want. These tanks need to do damage and do it as fast as they can so that you can kill stuff, get lots of damage, and get lots of money and reputation. I went ahead this time and took the whole traverse speed with the air induction pre-cleaner of version 2. Whole traverse speed increased by 10%. Like I said, this whole traverse isn't exactly that slow, but when you're in a very fast tank that does very good in a straight line, and you have shitty hull traverse, it makes it really hard to turn in time to, circle around tanks, get around corners, whatever you need to do. I just went ahead and improved the hull traverse. Now, as far as the turret traverse, I initially thought I might go with this, but again, the turret traverse on this tank is very good. It's almost 50 degrees per second. So it doesn't take very long for you to get your gun around on any kind of target. If you've already got the whole traverse speed doing pretty good, you're not going to have to worry about not being able to shoot at something. So instead, I went with the improved filter system. This gives you 10% more acceleration than what you had before, and it increases your engine health by 25%, which is just, thanks for that, But, yeah, it gives you more acceleration. This tank it's all about speed, so I'm just enhancing its speed. If you didn't want to go with that, you could throw that out and just stick with a repair time improved by 25% with the Pioneer Toolkit. You could increase the vision range if you think that you need to scout, because you are sort of fast. The fastest of pretty much all of the tier 8, so you could technically get into places first. You might beat a few light tanks, in fact. And if you were wanting to increase the view range, you could do that as well. You could even throw in some camo paint. Increase the camouflage factor by 5%, but you are really not a tank destroyer. You're not a scout, so it might just be a waste. You don't want to be playing this like a light tank. It is a main battle tank through and through. So yeah, that's pretty much just what I do so far with this tank. I've had some okay games with this. I've had a lot of really bad games in this. Main battle tanks that don't have a lot of armor but have a lot of speed are all well and good, but in this game, at least until they fix the missile spamming, which they are supposed to fix in the next patch, believe it or not. I've not heard good things about it actually being fixed yet on the test server, but hey, maybe they'll get around to actually doing it. The tank is good, but it's average to below average almost everywhere except for speed. So if you really like speedy, zippy main battle tanks, go with the Russians. They have some armor, and they have ERA, they have APS, they hit harder, they have more pen, and it just overall, in most cases, they even have more gun depression. I mean, if you want a tier 8 premium main battle tank that does just about everything you need to a main battle tank to do it, tier 8 and be premium, here you go. T72B3. Most of the time this is on the store, and it makes its way back to the store periodically. So, yeah, I would go with that if I had a choice. So that, in a nutshell, is the tier 8 premium main battle tank, the Type 96 Bravo. And of course, as always, I do have a replay to show you. It's coming up just in a minute. That'll give you an idea of the mobility and the survivability of this tank, and then you might be able to judge it a little better if it's something you think you want to spend the dough on. So anyway, take care. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the battlefield. And here we are on Aerobus. I seem to always get this map when I'm recording something, or sometimes maybe one of the other less popular maps, but it always seems like I run into this one a lot. But I don't mind this map. It's okay. I kind of know where to go on this map. So immediately taking off from the start, you can see, man, the acceleration on this tank is not bad. But if you look at the team list, you can see that this is going to be a very tough game for this tank. As I mentioned, it does not do well in higher tier games, and we got 3 tier 10s. I wasn't too worried that we're going to lose. As soon as I see a Challenger 2 that can basically just tank everything it's on its own, I felt pretty good about winning. But yeah, I'm the lowest tank here on the totem pole besides the Buford, but at least the Buford has some stealth, and I don't really have the kind of gun depression or armor to stand up to much. At least he has even more speed than I do and can actually bounce some shots. In some cases, he actually has more armor than I do. But I decide, okay, look, I don't want to poke out too much, but my gun depression doesn't let me get hull down, and you see immediately the Buford shoots me right in the face with a missile, and a quarter of my health is already gone. Did not bounce anything. Didn't even think about bouncing anything. So I got to kind of put in the shots where I can. Since our team is pushing up, the one guy there on the right, it spawned all these other enemy tanks, and so I'm kind of sitting here and eat another missile again from another Buford, or not the Buford, what is that, the Bradley, excuse me, the old Bradley, it's not the Buford. So of course now I'm down to half health. I do have the lowest health of all the tier 8s and very little armor to kind of shrug off any missile attacks, because the ERA on this tank is not very good. Looked like I did in fact bounce one missile right there from the Bradley, but I think it might have just hit the ground in front of me. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm basically just going to have to snipe. I'm not really a main battle tank in this battle because I just can't play it like that. You can't. You don't have the gun depression to go hold down and at least put some of your effective turret armor to work. And of course, I've got a billion Terminators now to deal with, and they're just these mobile bunkers. You'll see that there's a lot of shots that I take that I got a green indicator, and it just either does not go through, it bounces, it shatters. It is a bit insane dealing with the Terminator tanks, just because the way the AI handles it, it just seems like it does not allow you to do damage to it, and yet when you drive them, you seem to get your ass kicked very quickly with them. Oh, the old PL, I like it, and nowhere to shoot. Now you see there's a gap there. He lost some of his ERA, so that I knew would penetrate. But after this, I try to take another shot at the lower front plate. Green indicator. Ooh, it actually allowed it to go in. Now you'll see the next shot that I take at him, I believe, is another shot at the lower front plate, basically in the same place. Get the green indicator right there. No pin. So, yay, RNG. Alright, so we cleared that out, and I'm going to push up. Now, you can watch the acceleration here. I mean, I'm going up a slope. It's not much of a slope, but it's still going up, and this thing is just going. Now, don't drive like this. I kind of made a mistake, and of course, I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't where I thought it was on the map, but you can see how I said the whole traverse is not the greatest. With a fast, kind of in a straight line tank, not having good hull traverse means that you can't go oops and change direction very quickly. It's not bad, it's just not super great. So yeah, if anything, it doesn't really need turret traverse speed. It definitely needs some hull traverse speed and acceleration just to punch up the fact that it needs to get to its top speed. because that's really the only thing this tank has going for it, is that top speed. Now, capping the objectives, the team obviously knew what they were doing. I mean, the one guy already mentioned, hey, start destroying the airfield. Of course, one guy is up there destroying the airfield. You can sort of do it ahead of time, so as soon as you kill the enemy tanks, you can just immediately have the airstrip destroyed and go straight to the end. But, you know, it's PvE. We got plenty of time. I don't see any reason really to, you know, get worried at this point. You know, it's like, take your time, do some damage, get some extra reputation, get some extra credits. All that plays into it. You know, the more tanks you destroy, the more damage you do, the more stuff you get. So I'm not big on just rushing for the end, unless, you know, now obviously I would avoid a fight if, say, it was just me and one other guy left alive, or, you know, something like that. Obviously you're not going to sit around and try to destroy everything. You're going to try to get the hell out. But we're doing fine so far. Everybody's alive, everybody has some damage on the board, and that's kind of what we're looking at. And you can see the accuracy on this tank is really good. There's nothing wrong with that. The reload is pretty good. The damage is okay. But it's just that the tank is more like a light tank than a main battle tank, if anything. It's just, it has all this speed, but it doesn't have the armor, but it doesn't really have enough speed to protect itself. You don't really have enough gun depression to go hold down to make yourself a really tiny target. And, you know, and the tank isn't exactly as small as a Russian tank either. I mean, you can see you got the you know, teammate there, and, you know, he's in a much larger tank than me, the XM1, and, you know, my tank isn't that much smaller than something that big. So, but you can see again the speed. In a straight line, this thing gets up to speed pretty quick. It's not hitting 75, but it does pick up speed, and you see, you go around the Challenger, you see, I'm not that much smaller than even a Challenger 2, so this is not a tiny tank. The Russian tanks are a lot smaller in most cases than this, but, you know, now we got, my favorite guy, oh jeez, the T-15. Luckily, he was not pointing in the direction to let his missiles go where he was really trying to shoot them, mainly at me, up a hill. So the missile volley that he shot there kind of went nowhere. It just went right into the dirt. T-15 is extremely scary if you don't have any defense against missiles, because they spam them very, very, very quickly at you, and they will wreck you, if not kill you outright in 3 or 4 shots. They actually do have some armor on them, which is kind of scary also, but I figure I'm not going to sit back there and just wait. I'm going to make him have to turn, and then I finish him off. So again, I'm just deciding, I'm just going to go balls to the wall. I don't want to sit back and just snipe. I want to get up here because these are, you know, some main battle tanks coming in. Most of them are fairly decently armored, or there are tanks coming in that just shoot shit tons of missiles. So I figure I might as well use my speed and just get around them. But again, the whole traverse is not exactly fast enough to keep up with that front line, you know, speed. So of course I'm bouncing into rocks. There I did in fact bounce another missile from the Terminator, but he was in fact moving at the time. So the accuracy on the missiles definitely suffers if they're moving when they fire. Now supposedly there's going to be a patch where they fix, you know, the missile spam once and for all, and if a tank can fire something other than missiles, they'll choose to fire something other than just the missiles. Because right now that's all they do is shoot missiles, and that makes for the gameplay to really, really suck. And even in the water, you can see I'm going uphill, and only if it's a really steep hill do I actually lose speed. You can see going uphill here, I'm gaining speed. So the acceleration, the horsepower on the engine, the ground resistance, it's all really nice for this tank. But it's just overall, the gameplay just, yeah, you can't play it like a traditional main battle tank. So even though that was a very short, quick, and decisive battle, no one died for a change. You know, I'm still only third, basically, on damage here, which, you know, I don't think is bad. I beat one of the other tier 10s, but you can see I really didn't bounce much of anything. You know, 1900 damage is almost nothing. Did make some money, did get some good reputation, but again, there are better choices for a tier 8 premium main battle tank. Like I said, the T-72B3, it's far and away better. You do more damage, you have better armor, you have missile defense here. And this tank just doesn't have any of that. It does have speed, so if you like a fast tank, I'd almost take the Vickers Mark 7 over this, just because the Vickers has more gun depression, it is even faster, and it has good turret armor. So even though It doesn't have any ERA, and it's a much bigger tank, and it's a lot flatter. If you can go hold down in it and at least be a little bit more protected than you can in the Type 96 Bravo. So anyway, that is going to do it for this video. I'm sorry it took so long to get a new video out. I've been so busy with work and everything else, and Armor Warfare is not, you know, the main focus of my YouTube and my Twitch streams much anymore. And because of the delay and even getting this tank after I purchased it by almost 3 weeks, it kind of hurt my, you know, ability to want to hurry up and get this out. But that is going to do it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope I was helpful with at least showing what this tank is and what it can do. If you enjoyed it, if you liked it, please press the like button down below. It does help out my channel. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, you can click at the bottom of your screen or somewhere on your screen here in just a minute. And that'll give you every update every time I upload something new to my channel. Anyway, that's all. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you all next time.